I had to make this video because of just how frustrating it was to watch this live stream. I really wanted to vent and cover some things Vegan Gains and Jack missed. I also add my own take on a few things. Now I'll try not to repeat too much of what Vegan Gains and Jack said, and I won't respond to every single thing in the live stream. Instead I'll focus on relevant clips, and just a quick FYI, I actually enjoy Bearings and Kraut's content, but on this topic I think they've failed to produce a logical argument.
All right, so my position is, from the research I've done over the years, and this has ultimately turned me vegan, and I turned vegan overnight actually because I realized this. So human beings have absolutely no nutritional needs to eat meat. We do perfectly fine on a whole foods vegan diet. In fact, most of the research suggests we do better. The diet we've evolved to eat is a herbivorous diet. And because of that, because we live in modern Western society and we have the luxury of modern agriculture, it's completely unnecessary and therefore unethical to raise and kill animals for food. So that's my position on it. Do you want to make your own statement?
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, my general position is, I really don't think that deeply about this issue. I've always eaten meat. I eat meat. I haven't put any great thought into it. And that's why I suppose I've been finding my feet on it a little bit as we go along. But I know one thing. I'm not going to stop eating meat because I like eating meat, and I think that it does give you more benefit than plants do.
Even though someone doesn't explicitly formulate their argument in a valid way, a logically valid way, and define all terms and established premises, there are implicit meanings to what we say. And a lot of us, when we debate, we do it in a very unrefined way. Sorry about that. We do it in a very unrefined way. And now Bering's essentially justifying himself by saying he's always eaten meat. So even though he's not explicitly making an argument, just by giving those reasons, he's making an attempt to justify eating meat by saying he's always eaten meat and he likes eating meat. It's kind of ironic when you consider this.
Well, bacon, though, doesn't constitute an argument. I hate to burst your bubble, but it just simply doesn't.
Has anyone really ever said, but bacon, and expected it to constitute an argument? Because if they have, maybe you should stop debating retards.
I know one thing. I'm not going to stop eating meat because I like eating meat.
Bacon, though, is literally the same thing, but just articulated differently, He says he's new to the whole thing, and you can kind of tell. Anyway, let's get into it.
What I'm trying to say is it's a personal decision.
Right. Well, just because it's a personal decision doesn't mean it's morally justified. Me killing you would be a personal decision. That's it, and it could give me pleasure doing it. Maybe I'm a psycho, but that doesn't mean it's morally justified. And
but
like I said,
it would break a social code. It would break a social contract that we have established.
Social contract. How would going vegan would break a social contract?
It would murdering me would break a social contract. Murdering a person in general.
Well, at one point, like slavery was legal. Like I'm just making a point that just because something is socially accepted,
something being a personal choice doesn't justify immoral, unethical behavior. Vegan Gains showed this with this question about murdering him. It's his personal choice to murder him, and by definition, it is his personal choice. Kraut's refutation to this doesn't hold up. The fact that murdering goes against our social construct or code is not the determining factor of why murdering him is wrong. If Kraut lived in Iran, where it's illegal to commit homosexual acts and punishable by death, usually hanging, he wouldn't appeal to social construct or code, and therefore it's fallacious. Okay, hanging adult homosexual men for having consensual sex just because is immoral, regardless of whether you live in a country where it's part of a social code and construct or not. So Kraut's argument pointing out the distinction is wrong. He has failed to prove how something being a personal choice justifies an action, and the implicit implication is that it's a personal choice that's acceptable and okay because it's consistent with our social code. But as I just showed earlier, and as did Vegan Gains, social code or construct, or whatever you want to call it, isn't always morally correct. He's essentially committing a pill to law fallacy. Okay, just because it's legal, it's okay, is essentially what he's saying. Okay, maybe possibly appeal to popularity or authority fallacy. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but the stance he's taking sounds to be extreme hardcore moral relativism.
What I've seen you do, like Bering do, especially each time he makes a response to me, he will make an argument, and then it's as if you realize that argument isn't valid or something, and then you just fall back on "I don't care."
Well, yeah, no. I'm giving you reasons. I'm giving you reasons that I do something. That they're my reasons that I do it. Now, if they don't stand up to your standard, that's the point where I don't care. They stand up to my standard. Do you understand what I'm saying?
The fact that they're your reasons doesn't negate the logical inconsistencies, right? Christian apologists do this too. They say it's just their reasons and their opinions and views. I'm sorry, but your opinions, views and reasons aren't exempt from criticism. Logic just doesn't go out the window the moment you say that they're your reasons and when you argue from this subjective standpoint. I'm sorry, but we're going to treat your reasons as an attempt at objective justification for eating and using animal products. Because when we put forth such a logical philosophical premise, and it's in a debate format, you can't expect us not to do so. Can you imagine if I said, oh, I don't think you were real, and you started explaining to me how you were real, and I just responded with, I just feel inside, like, just in my heart, I just feel that you're not real. It's a feeling I have, and that's just my reasons, and it's subjective, and a personal opinion. Now, you wouldn't ever take me seriously on that. So I completely agree with Vegan Gains. This is a cop-out. Every argument you've made, you've basically retracted somehow or another, and you won't ever take a definitive stance. Instead, constantly repeat that you don't care and never actually make an attempt to justify eating meat.
Why do you think it's okay to just cause the suffering and death of animals?
Well, it's not that I necessarily think it's okay to cause the suffering and death of animals. It's just what I've always done. It's just how I've always been. So I've never, until you came along, Jack, I never really considered it.
Well, Bering, anyone could say that. I could be a mass murderer and you could argue with me and try and persuade me that what I'm doing is wrong. I could just say, I could just say the exact same thing that you're saying, right? Oh, we just have different standards. Okay, and my standards are that I enjoy killing. It's get a good buzz throughout of it. And believe it or not, we can attack your standards. We can shed light on how your standards are poor and weak, and quite frankly pathetic. Okay, so the amount of times you've basically said bacon though, and the amount of fallacies you've committed show that your standards are weak. The fact that, and he even goes on to say, you literally can't morally justify eating animal products. So of course your standards are weak.
You're trying to say that it's morally justified because our ancestors have done it.
Well,
I
wasn't trying to say it's
maybe
morally
he really just doesn't give a fuck. Maybe it's not a fallback answer. Maybe he just really doesn't give a fuck. Because I guarantee you that most people in our societies don't give a fuck.
Now, I know Kraut was pulled in at the last minute, but this is a non-argument. To say you don't care is basically admitting defeat in my eyes. It's like if we were debating the existence of God, and I just said, oh, well, I don't care. It's not, it's not an argument. And you not caring doesn't justify the slaughter of innocent sentient beings. At the end of the day, this is a debate, and it's a philosophical discussion. Saying you don't care is quite frankly immature. And if you really don't care, then don't engage in this type of discussion.
No, what I'd like you to just admit is you don't really care and you like the taste of meat. You always.
I don't really care, and I like the taste of meat. But that's
okay.
True. That's true.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
All right, guys. I'll see you later.
But I also think meat's good for you.
So there you go. Literally my point I just made. I don't care. Meh. Animals die needlessly. They're tortured and they suffer and they're deprived the basic right to live. But meh. Bacon though. Bacon tastes good. Pork tastes nice. I want to do it. That's literally one of these things. I want to do it. Wow.
I grew up on a farm. I knew small farmers all my life who kept chickens and cows and pigs. I slaughtered pigs and chickens myself. It's something that it's not necessarily an evil thing. I don't see it as an evil thing. For some people, for some farmers, it's a way to get by in life.
The fact that for some people it's how they make their living doesn't justify slaughtering animals needlessly. People who bought and sold slaves as their profession also had that issue, I'm guessing. The fact some people depend on it doesn't justify it.
Well, right. There's an industry and a personal stake in it for some people, but that doesn't justify them causing the suffering and death of that animal. You don't think we can just make money other ways?
But,
What
I
do you mean with
that's-
money?
then-
Sometimes it's not just about money, because pork can be really good.
What?
Pork is really delicious. Pork is delicious. So it's not necessarily a money thing. If, for example, the pigs that I slaughtered when I think my grandpa taught me how to slaughter pigs when I was 10 years old.
I remember
We
that
did
line.
it because pork was really good.
Look, honestly, this is crazy, but when I heard this live, I honestly thought it was satire, but apparently not. I actually quite like Kraut and have watched some of his videos. This argument is so weak though, and again ironic because of Bearing's comment. This is again literally what he's doing. Bacon though, that's literally it. And so people do definitely make this argument, even people that, and this is a guy that's actually quite smart. Watch some of his videos. But for some reason, when it comes to vegan subject, it's just switch brains off. But yeah, taste, so it all boils down to taste really, which is what they're arguing. Which again, like everyone knows this, is essentially pleasure. Okay, pleasure doesn't justify needless suffering.
You keep
Because pork is delicious.
you keep falling back on pork tastes really good, and I'm trying to point out to you that it's just unnecessary and therefore unethical to cause the death of these animals. And
So
you're
it's
justifying
getting
it
drunk.
by saying it
It's
tastes good.
unnecessary, as in we could survive another way, but we don't want to, and we have the personal freedom to choose that.
Back to this personal freedom thing. Yes, you have the personal freedom to do so, just as the Iranian police or whoever have the personal freedom to hang homosexuals just for basically being homosexuals. I can't believe these are their arguments. It's taste goods, and this literally tastes good, and we don't want to not eat meat.
Like
It's not. It's civilization. We have built this grand fucking thing, and that is one of the things that makes us superior to an ant.
Now, this is actually something less ridiculous. Kraut is arguing that the distinguishable factor between animals and humans, and what makes it okay to torture, enslave, and eat animals, is civilization. But then we have tribes in the Amazon that don't really follow civilization. They live like animals, essentially. Basically, should I say. We wouldn't kill them just because they aren't civilized or whatever. If Kraut had the exact same characteristics, same traits, as he has now, but he wasn't part of a civilization or civilized, he would not want to be killed. If his consciousness was transmitted into this hypothetical thing that I'm saying, he wouldn't want to be killed. And I can get into this more and delve deeper, but it seems for now he's using this as just a reason, like a reason for why we are superior. And I would agree. We are superior, and it's one of the many reasons we are. But it still doesn't justify us needlessly slaughtering animals.
how does that morally justify needlessly killing these animals if you actually do admit we don't need it for survival?
Why?
It
are we doing that?
doesn't morally justify it. It's a case of fuck them. We just want it. Fuck them.
I see. So
This is Bearing's argument. Fuck them. Who cares? That's literally it. I like the taste of meat. I want to eat meat. That's literally his argument summed up. Oh yeah, and I've been eating meat my whole life. That's all of his arguments.
well, again, this is an appeal to nature.
Why
phenomenon.
Why does it have to be a moral argument? Why does someone who eats meat have to make a moral argument for it?
Well, there are ethical, far-reaching implications to your
Like?
action to consume meat.
Such
Like-
as
Well, such as the suffering and death of another sentient being.
Well, that's only an issue
it's
if you care about it. I mean, I hate to go back to it, but I mean,
Well,
it's
no,
not-
it is an issue whether or not you care about it.
well,
I
for-
don't.
So if you
for
guys-
it is.
some people don't. I mean,
So if you guys are
I'll
putting
be-
up,
Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
I'm baffled at the fact they're engaging in this debate anymore. Like, when they say they don't care, Not caring about an issue doesn't negate the issue. And the reason why vegans think that you have to morally justify eating animal products is because beings that are sentient, that have a central nervous system, pain receptors, nerve endings, and a mind, sorry about that, are being slaughtered by the billions. It's a bit of an awkward time to laugh, but being slaughtered by the billions merely for convenience, literally for convenience, tradition, and pleasure. And really, that kind of falls under the same ballpark, right? Tradition, convenience, and pleasure, because convenience really is pleasure. Okay, it's more convenient, it's pleasurable, it's nicer to follow, to have more of a convenient lifestyle, easier lifestyle. And tradition also just fitting the norm. It's pleasurable. It's but yeah, and vegan gains basically said that already. But yeah,
Why always make the moral argument? That's something that interests me, because my girlfriend talked me out of eating milk products like yogurt, drinking milk, and eating cheese. I'm not fully done with that. I still keep eating cheese because I fucking love it. By explaining to me that in milk products, especially in Europe, you will always find a percentage of pus in it. And that
Right.
just disgusted me. And I thought, ugh, I'm not eating that shit. Yeah, there's always pus in milk, apparently.
if anyone's close to going vegan, I think it's Kraut. His girlfriend's vegan. He doesn't eat meat and doesn't eat dairy really, or drink dairy, I guess. He only really eats cheese and eggs. Maybe it's just me my wishful thinking, because I quite like him and watch some of his videos. But that being said, his arguments are weak. I'm surprised at how casual this conversation is. The debate isn't about effective vegan activism, right? It was never about that. It's about whether you can morally justify eating animal products.
I think that is generally the idea that people get. I think that is the idea that people get when they discuss it with people like you, who just
Okay.
keep making authoritarian moral arguments. I've seen a lot of vegan YouTubers that my girlfriend watches, and they just keep making friendly, base-to-base, arguing their case, no kind of position of moral superiority, just friendly. Don't you think that what you are doing might be bad for your cause?
Like I said before, you guys aren't debating what is bad for his cause. You aren't debating that. Vegan Gains has probably turned thousands of people vegan. Different approaches work for different people. Focus on what you are debating about.
But in a certain degree, I wouldn't have a problem with a farmer, a small town farmer, especially in the kind of places that I live in, southern Germany, in Bavaria, keeping pigs and here and then deciding, oh, for Christmas we'll have some pork chops. I'll go and slaughter a pig, cut it, take it out, make some bacon.
Even though you could see that is unnecessary.
I wouldn't say it is unnecessary to a certain degree. If the farm, it's the farmer's decision if he wants pork chops or goose or something else for Christmas.
Well, whether or not it's a decision doesn't make it necessary or unnecessary. I'm saying, like,
not all decisions we make have to be necessary. Do you base your entire life upon making decisions that are unnecessary for, I don't know, the existence of some moral code or the existence for civilization or something else? Sometimes we do things because we enjoy them.
It's unnecessary because we don't need meat to survive, and we don't need meat to live a healthy life. This is tacit. You know this. You know this is what he means when he says necessary. And yes, things do need to be necessary when involving arguably immoral behaviour. Killing a bear just because you want to, just because of the thrill, and just because you're bored or whatever, is unethical and it's cruel. But killing a bear because people's lives are in danger is justified, is arguably justified, I guess. Okay, you see the difference? The necessity of it is relevant and it's important.
But that's what baffles me. Is if you recognize that it's not just going to be outlawed one day, why have these malicious battles?
It will eventually.
With yeah, it will eventually, but not now. Why have these big battles with people like me? I mean, someone like me. I admitted to Jack in my first video that I think that factory farming is absolutely horrible. Now I'm a YouTuber with 350,000 subscribers. Why not work with me and make an alliance with me to build the case somehow against factory farming, building recognition against that?
First of all, we have discussions with non-vegans because it's a philosophical subject, and that's just the purpose of a debate. That's just the purpose. You're a self-proclaimed skeptic. I'm pretty sure. And in your anti-SJW videos, you try to use logic and reason, and therefore we appeal to that inclination. We appeal to that logical, philosophical side of it, the general topic. And not just because you apparently value it, which I'm starting to doubt, to be honest with you, after these interactions, but it's because we do too. We also value logic, and like, logic wins. Like, I don't need to explain why logic is king.
The European regulations on food are like the strictest in the fucking world, besides Japan. So if something on the
Yeah, yeah.
packaging on European food says so, I mean, we Europeans, unlike you fucking savages on your fucking continent, we actually care about what we eat.
A barn packed with egg-laying hens on a Norfolk farm. The birds show clear signs of suffering and neglect. But these animals are supposed to be protected by one of the most respected trademarks in farming, the RSPCA Freedom Food Standard. With over 2,000 members, the scheme's logo can be seen on produce in nearly every supermarket. It stands for welfare and protects the living conditions of 1 billion farm animals. This is just one farm, but what's happening here throws the legitimacy of the scheme into question. We first entered the barn at Pound Farm at night. Birds do flock together at night, but the extreme feather loss and redness are symptoms of life in a prolonged, cramped and stressful environment. We found a number of injured and dying hens, and some that looked as if they'd been dead a long time. Under Freedom Food Regulation M3.1, flocks must be inspected 3 times per day for sick and injured birds. And under any rules, carcasses should be removed within 24 hours.
If you were down a supermarket, you would pay a premium for eggs from these chickens because you'd be under the impression that they were living in healthy conditions.
Well, why don't you just go vegan then? Like, I don't understand.
Because I don't.
Because you don't care.
Because there's
This
so
doesn't-
much to that. I mean, have
This
you ever
doesn't really-
had to have you ever had to remove a wasp's nest, for example?
No.
Flamethrower it away or shit like that? Many of
No.
us do.
Not really sure what his argument is here, but I think it's that as a vegan you wouldn't be able to do that. I would actually argue you can do that. The whole point of veganism is, this is the definition, veganism is a way of living which seeks to exclude as far as is possible and practicable all forms of exploitation of and cruelty to animals for food, clothing or any other purpose. So it's not practical to have wasps' nest in your front garden and being stung every time you walk past or whatever. Are there ways you could probably move the nest without killing the wasp? Sure, but still I would argue that killing them, this is way more necessary than mass slaughtering billions of animals, right? Okay, so like the wasps are directly harming you, they're affecting you in a negative way, okay? So it's a very different scenario. And I would argue that killing them is way more necessary than mass slaughtering billions of animals for pleasure, essentially. Also the smaller moral qualms, the moral problems with veganism doesn't justify eating animal products. We can debate about the minor things, like whether it's okay to eat clams, and what about insect deaths and planes killing animals, ferrets and rodents and stuff like that dying in the production of crops. But at the end of the day, a lot of this stuff is fairly necessary to function and live in our society, and very minor in the grand scheme of things.
Well, the thing is, like, none of this actually attacks the root of the argument that it's unnecessary and therefore unethical. Like, it's just, I don't care, over and over again.
Yeah,
It is
that's
unnecessary, but so it's the thing. Many things we do are unnecessary. Gaming is unnecessary. Fucking
Well, yeah,
jogging
but
is
back,
this is a false
unnecessary.
go back to
analogy.
that root point though. Like, yes, many things are unnecessary, but once again, this one has victims and the other ones don't. You know what I mean?
I'm pretty sure I can think of something unnecessary that has victims. I just have to think a little bit about it. Yeah, your iPhone has victims. The fucking 11-year-old kid who built it in fucking China.
I'm so surprised Kraut didn't understand the whole premise and point of it being necessary. To reiterate, it's not just because it's unnecessary or necessary, it's because it's an unethical, immoral act. Arguably unethical and immoral, or not arguably, I would just state it, yeah. Anyway, and as such, if we do such a thing, we need to evaluate the necessity of it. Do we need to do it? You know, yeah, if we are bombing a certain country, it's unethical at its basis. Okay, at its basis, because it's murder, it's killing. But what's the reason behind it? The reason, and then, like, is it necessary? Okay, for what gain? For what purpose? We're defending ourselves. Yeah, a whole other thing. That's just an example. And yeah, this is a moral and ethical problem people can pose with like Apple's treatment of to like factory workers or whatever. Now, I don't own an iPhone, and owning an iPhone isn't synonymous with being vegan, of course. Sure, there will be some clothes I might wear or something that I might buy that has had child labour involved in it or something like that. But that's a lot more necessary living in this society we live in, you know, than it is with eating animal products. Vegan Gains sort of explained this in the live stream as well.
Like justifiable in every situation?
No,
Is that what you're trying to say?
No. What I'm saying is you have your ethical standards. Your ethical standards are to be debated. They don't just simply apply to me merely because they are your ethical standards.
That's like saying, yeah, your beliefs, I have mine. You know, you can say that about anything. It doesn't justify you eating animal products. And even though we have different ethical standards, we can debate and discuss our standards. And it's clear your standards haven't been that well thought out and aren't that good at all. They're not, you know, your arguments like have basically consisted of, similar to bearings, I don't care, I like the taste of meat. And the one slightly decent one was the civilization. You know, animals aren't civilized, or they haven't created civilization or whatever. Therefore, we can needlessly enslave, objectify, torture, and murder them en masse. But I bet if you had the exact same traits and characteristics, but you weren't civilized, you weren't part of a civilization or whatever, you would still want to live. Why? Because you would still be sentient. You would still have a central nervous system, pain receptors, blah blah blah, and you'd still have a mind.
You're not actually giving a justification for killing animals. Like
I don't have to. I don't have to, because I'm not arguing that it's ethical.
For killing you. I don't have to give a justification for killing you. No, I don't. I can just kill you. Like,
no, I don't have to provide anything because I don't give a shit. I don't have to provide.
This is the fallback. This is the fallback argument.
No, I'm not making, because we really do not give a shit, dude. We don't have to make an ethical. Argument. We don't have to make an ethical argument for slaughter, because we don't even believe there is an ethical argument to be made.
So, if there's not an ethical argument to be made, then why engage in this discussion? And it's a total cop-out to say you don't care. By the way, this is basically admitting defeat. Saying I don't care and we can't argue that it's ethically moral to eat meat is basically saying that we can't defend our position and actions. And if so, then you're living a life that's not in accordance with your moral beliefs, and you can't justify your actions. It would be like someone debating the existence of a God and then say, I can't prove God exists, and I just want to believe in God and I don't really care at all. And even if you tell me it's not reasonable to believe in God, and I don't really care. Why engage in the first place?
You believe there's an ethical argument.
Remember,
do you understand?
You brought this argument to us. We don't.
No, sorry. No. Do you recognize that animals are sentient?
Yes.
Do you recognize that they can experience pain and suffering?
Yes.
Yes.
So, would you say that not causing the suffering and death of an animal would be a better outcome than causing the suffering and death of an animal?
It would be a better outcome, but not if I don't get my pork.
I want, you know, that's the whole thing. I want so it's okay. Yeah, great arguments, Baron, great arguments. This is actually a debate, believe it or not. Actually stated your statement, your opening statement, okay? It was like a debate. You even called it a debate. Vegan Gains called it a debate, right? And, you know, so you need to actually be putting forth actual arguments, not just, I want, I like, it feels good. Those aren't arguments.
Okay, so
because to most of us, animals are a commodity. They're just
again, this is the fallback excuse. I don't care. You're just trying to find different ways to say I don't care. It's a commodity. It's socially acceptable. I want to.
It's not even an excuse, because we don't need an excuse. We don't have to provide you an excuse. It's just the truth. We don't care.
It's at this point I would stop debating with them. Honestly, like even before, it's an excuse by definition. Okay, excuse is a reason or explanation given to justify a fault or offence. That's your excuse. Your excuse is, I don't care, and that's an explanation to justify a fault. The fault being you eating animal products, which in turn causes needless suffering and torture. Do you not think it's a little messed up that before an animal is even brought into this world, we know when it's going to die? Not just a general estimate, not just like a life expectancy, but pretty much the exact day. And we refer to them as numbers and treat them just like any old product, any old commodity, and you even admit it. But meh, as you say, meh, bacon tastes nice. That's literally your argument. Oh, I want it, I like it. Really, really pathetic. You know, I'll end it here because I don't want this video to go on too long. I did this all in one take, so obviously there's tons of mistakes and stuff. But anyway, I have to be honest about this one thing I wanted to say earlier. Kraut wasn't prepared, and Bering pulled him in at the last minute. Even though he could have conducted himself in a much more logical fashion, it's still a little bit wrong to expect Kraut to be prepared for such a debate. Bering, on the other hand, has made countless video responses to both Jack and Vegan Gains Richard. And I think the fact that he has to constantly get people to stand up for him, like in this debate, Kraut talked more than Bering, shows how weak his position is. Now, I don't need to repeat this, but I actually have, obviously have no ill will against Bering or Kraut. Bering, on the other hand, I think he's done a disservice. Earlier was talking about, actually failed to make this point earlier. He was saying about how he could, oh no, I think that's going to be in the next video if I do one. But he was talking about how he could group together with Jack and Vegan Gains, and they could try and cut down on factory farming, and then Vegan Gains was saying about he's a complete abolitionist or something. Yeah. As am I. I don't think that just reducing things just reducing animal suffering is good enough. I think it should be done with altogether, of course. But my point was that he says that he's against factory farming and all these things, but then he incites it and encourages it by making that kind of, I forgot what it was, meatless Tuesdays, meatless Monday, meat Mondays or something, not meatless.
Now, even though I've only provided Vegan Gains with an express response video, I want to say I really do appreciate the effort he went to in his video addressed to me. And to show that appreciation, I'd like to commemorate a day to Vegan Gains. Well, maybe not a whole day, but a night at least. So I declare tomorrow night to be Vegan Gains Steak Night. Join me in celebrating the fucking awesomeness of Vegan Gains by firing up the grill and having a good old steak for dinner. And make sure you send me a photo of your steak so we can show Vegan Gains exactly how much innocent animal blood he has on his hands. Because without Vegan Gains, and more to the point his awesome video directed at me, Vegan Gains Steak Night would not be a thing. So thank you, Vegan Gains.
And all of that stuff, and that kind of made me lose a little bit of respect for him, because even if you disagree with vegans, you don't need to, sorry, not vegans, but Vegan Gains, you don't need to then, that's such a poor, immature, spiteful thing to do, just for one vegan. Quite a lot of vegans watch you, anyway. But yeah, if you like this video, then like and subscribe, and I'll probably be a bit more kind of formal and more prepared in my next video if I do one. But yeah, like and subscribe, and if you stay to the end, then you're a champ. Alright, peace.